Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
Hello, I'm Lester Lefton. Kent State University is proud to sponsor NEOtropolis, a program that looks at the forces that impact the region. Kent State is one of those forces. As a center of educational excellence and as an economic development engine, our efforts at Kent State have a powerful and positive impact on the region through research and development, the arts and innovation, and preparing our graduates to compete in the global marketplace. I hope you enjoy the program, and I invite you to learn more about Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.
Hello and welcome to NEOtropolis, the show about the myriad forces of technology, globalization, and diversity, how they impact and enhance the way you experience your world, shaping and sculpting how we live, work, learn, and play, all in the context of the cascading effects of change. Change, of course, being the only constant. I'm Luke Frazier, your host and guide for NEOtropolis Season 3. We'll be coming at you live for 16 episodes, bringing you interviews and observations and examinations of issues related to technology, globalization, and diversity. And I'll tell you how you can get more involved in just a little bit. Tonight, social media gets organized, turntables get spun, and the question remains the same: what does all this mean to you? Tonight's episode is technology in time and place, but come on, technology is a big, wide word, ubiquitous in its application, lots of definitions and descriptions, like these. The application of science, especially to industrial or commercial objectives, that's kind of bland, okay? The purposeful application of information in the design, production, and utilization of goods and services, and in the organization of human activities, blah, blah, kind of pocket protector land there. The branch of knowledge that deals with the creation and use of technical means and their interrelation with life, society, and the environment, kind of kumbaya, my lord. But here's one I found interesting. It's a capability given by the practical application of knowledge, like a car's fuel-saving technology or a phone's restaurant locator technology. But wait a minute, go back. Given? Capability given, not capability that is created or produced or generated or formed or constructed. But who's giving it to whom? Is it magically bestowed upon us by the powers that be, a higher power, the man behind the curtain? And what if it's not something we even want? Is it still a given? Tonight we'll try to unpack some of the issues and applications of technology in our region and in the global marketplace of ideas, in this time and this place, or at least we'll get started. We'll hear from a cultural anthropologist, a turntablist, and a guy with a big idea. But first, let's take a visit to the Wonderwall. NEOtropolis' Wonderwall is the first stop every week for a question that we want you to respond to in your best social media given capability. Put your best tech forward. Joining me now is NEOtropolis' social media expert, Kathleen Coland. Hey, Kathleen.
Hi, Luke.
How are you?
Hi, good.
Good to see you.
Good.
Listen, you're going to be our social media expert over the next 16 weeks. You're going to bring us some questions. You're going to do some analysis. But give me in just a few seconds what social media, the crux of it is.
The crux of social media is that now we, the people, have the opportunity to be our own publishers. We no longer need to depend on newspapers, radio, and television to share our messages with the world. If you're passionate about a cause, if you have a business, you can now create your own audience and interact with that audience. It's no longer one-way communication from a big media. It's two-way communication that we create ourselves.
Cool. I think that gives us a really good start. What's on the Wonderwall tonight?
Tonight we wonder in two parts. Which of these two represent a greater technological advancement for humankind? A smartphone that locates the nearest Italian restaurant with the tap of the screen, or a car that can parallel park itself?
Well, like parking in front of that Italian restaurant you just found.
Exactly, something like that. The second part of the question is, why do you think so?
Well, you know, for me, like, gastronomic delight is great. I need Italian food when I need it, and I need to find where I am, for sure. And also, I can parallel park really well, so I don't really matter with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too, absolutely.
So listen, how can people get their ideas and tweets and everything to us the next 20 minutes or so?
On Facebook.com/NEOtropolis TV, on Twitter at NEOtropolis TV, and as well as on Google Plus at NEOtropolis. And feel free to share your thoughts through the coming week. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. We'll get back to you in a few minutes. And now it's Culture Mark.
Be part of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at NEOtropolis TV and on Facebook, YouTube, and Google+. When you visit neotropolis.org, check out the archives and sign up for our e-newsletter.
So off the wonder wall to a guy who wonders about a whole lot of things, about the use and abuse of social media. Joining me now is Dr. Dave Peruzic, cultural anthropologist, professor of anthropology at KSU, and a Culture Mark contributor. How you doing?
Fine. How you doing, Luke?
Excellent. Thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
So we're going to struggle, or at least get together and talk a number of times this season about different issues related to technology, globalization, diversity. Yeah. But I'm fascinated at first that we can establish what culture really is. You know, what culture means to you as a professional professor.
Yeah, well, as a professional professor, I'll answer the question as best I can. You know, culture is an incredibly powerful and crucial real-world phenomenon, but also incredibly complex, and sometimes it gets spoken of in pretty glib, sometimes silly terms. Most broadly speaking, I think of culture as the human adaptation to the physical and social environment.
Okay, so let me stop you there. So you're talking about things that we do in response to the world. Like, can you give me an example of something?
Well, you know, for instance, other species adapt on the basis of swiftness or size or strength or a combination of those kinds of things. We rely upon this universe of symbols and symbolic meanings known as culture in order to exist in the world. How do you make fire? How do you create warmth and shelter and so on? That's all symbolic knowledge. In that sense, one of my favorite thinkers on the subject thinks of culture as webs of significance that people themselves have spun.
Webs, so the internet, we're talking webs here, we're still webs.
That's another web, yeah.
What you said that interested me just then was this sense of, you know, when we have a story to tell, what are some of the signs and what are the ways that we can tell it? Is that culturally kind of connected?
It's certainly part and parcel of culture, absolutely.
Okay. Well, in a little while, I'm going to talk to someone who uses hip-hop music in terms of making cultural change and differences. But first, I want to play you a clip from a company that's called Comet Technologies. And what they do is they've created a number of things. One of them is called a twit pump. And it kind of concentrates and puts together social media applications in one place. So what I'd like to do, now that we've established that culture is, say it again,
a web of significance and adaptation to the world around us.
Okay, so those tools that we can use kind of thing. Okay, we've established that. Let's take a look at this clip, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Great, let's do it.
A few years ago, news organizations debuted a new technology. If a reporter was out on the scene and a camera wasn't available, they could use a cell phone sending video that could go right to air.
That technology was developed by a company right here in Cleveland that's now working in a not business as usual way to create new ways to use the internet.
Нет, ты можешь так говорить, я должен в основном говорить, конечно.
In the small office of Comet Technologies, one of the first unusual things you notice is that English is not the only language spoken here.
Просто хотят снимать. Зачем снимать, я не знаю.
Company co-founder Valery Shirakov hails from St. Petersburg, Russia. He started Comet in 2001 with fellow Russian Viktor Sviatosh.
And we started as a video development company using the dial-ups. And that's basically something new for me at least was. And we have mathematicians on the staff who's been working on this new cool technology, and we try to basically push the video over the dial-up network, and we kind of were successful at it.
Valery had come to the U.S. in 1992 for a job in Cleveland. He helped develop web infrastructure for large companies like Parker Hannifin. Today, as Chief Technology Officer for Comet, he directs a group of Russian mathematicians and software engineers at Comet's research and development subsidiary in St. Petersburg. How does he manage a staff that's half a world away?
Skype and emails or any other instant messaging tools, whatever is available to us. We sharing our desktops. We have online management tools. Sometimes I feel like they're next door to me.
He has an earphone which he will talk to people, and he also has an instant messaging, and he also has the websites in front of him. So between the combination of three, it's like mission control, where you manage multiple people with like a 24-hour objective. So he's got these 5 people, and he's all interacting, and it's like he's a conductor. and he's conducting using as if they're the musicians, and he'll talk, he'll listen, he'll have a word. He does a great job of it.
Howard Becker is Comet's CEO. He was working as a consultant to tech companies when he met Valeri and Victor at a trade show. He joined their company in 2005.
My specialty is developing, taking great technology and turning it into something that people will pay for.
Becker has turned Comet's efforts toward the world of social media and the internet, expanding on its technology that allowed video streaming over dial-up connections. Comet has developed a product it calls TwitPump.
Here's how TwitPump can make you money.
Okay, let's hold it right there. That's the start with a really heavy sales pitch interlude. If you'd like to see the whole entire piece on Comet Technologies, visit NEOtropolis.org. So, Dr. Dave, what they described was this mechanism or this kind of almost philosophy about gathering together different parts of identities, what I heard. What did you hear?
Online identities. Well, I heard a number of things. There's quite a bit going on in the clip. One of the things that's going on is the celebration, rather breathless celebration of technology. He's orchestrating this, he's orchestrating that, but clearly one of the things he's orchestrating is outsourced labor, which is a bit of a problem these days in Northeast Ohio. So there's that. Then there's the technology itself, and I understood that the technology is intended for, rock stars, movie stars. But, when you think about it, that's a minuscule fraction of the population.
Well, I think there's certainly more people that wish they were a rock star than end up being a rock star, right?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
in that vein, though, we have ways that we present ourselves, right, every day, and that we have all different kinds of tools in the toolkit, right? We talked about culture being the toolkit and culture. But so some of what people are doing is choosing certain kinds of tools over others. I mean, is that something that just should be discouraged, I guess?
Well, here's the thing. We every day, we engage in a kind of presentation of self. We put effort into how we come off to others. We do it all the time. We've been doing it so long and so effectively, we don't even think about it. In this case, however, when we do this in everyday life in a three-dimensional world, if I convey an image of myself to you or to anybody for that matter, sooner or later in a 3D world, I'm going to have to back it up. Well, not necessarily the case with this.
Well, I guess, that's interesting right there because, you have a nice sport coat, right?
Well,
I got a new sweater. We're sitting here well presented, right? The lighting, everyone in the crew is doing such a fantastic job for this live show. But back up a step to the sense of, where do we come from in terms of making ourselves presentable in a really deep way? Is there deepness here that we can get at?
Well, I don't see deepness in that example, for instance. In that example, quite the contrary. I see contrivance. I see, at least potentially, new levels of artificiality in the presentation of self. I also see the creation of needs that didn't exist.
Well, that's the story of capitalism, though, isn't it?
Well, it is indeed. So clearly, that's very good for some people, some entities. The question is who? Is it good for everybody? Yeah. I worry culturally that it promotes a kind of narcissism, which we're already at a pretty high level of, it seems to me, in this society, right? So if the model is that everyone must conduct their lives online as though they were indeed rock stars with followings, maybe we start to be in trouble.
Well, let me lay this on you. I was talking to a friend about kind of this social media, and if you're busy with your texting while you're walking down the street, you're not in the streetscape. Yeah. But what he said to me is that, if I'm getting a picture, or a friend of his got a picture of his baby in a text while he's walking in his office, he's going to lunch, being in a hurry, what a profound human interaction that was. He got to experience what his child was doing at that time at the apartment, the house, and that was only made possible because of that social media.
That's very nice. I mean, social media has its positive applications, but it's only nice in a very confined way. If everybody's walking and driving while looking at pictures of their kids, we're going to be in very literal, very tangible, very graphic trouble.
And hence we now have laws and signs that you see, no texting while driving, no cell phone.
Exactly.
And so we actually have these tools that we use, and now we're coming up against things that have to be created to counter those instincts, instincts is a whole other story.
Yeah, really another story.
But so NEOtropolis is about culture, and it's about technology, globalization, and diversity. What can you tell us, give us a preview a little bit of coming weeks when we talk about culture, let's say in a global context?
Oh my. Well, culture the world over, I mean, as I said, it's the human adaptation. In fact, culture is what really distinguishes us from all other species. We are the only species on Earth thoroughly immersed in a universe of symbols and symbolic meanings upon which we all rely for survival. That's quite a mouthful, so we'll explore that, I hope, in some somewhat practical ways with examples. These days, however, with globalization, you see real transformations going on the world over. New fusions, new combinations of cultural realities.
That is a lot of stuff. I'm really glad you're a NEOtropolis contributor. You can
I'm
help
really
me
glad
sort
to be
through
one.
it. Excellent.
All right.
And we will be back with Learning Curve. From culture at large to hip-hop culture, I'm joined now by DJ Doc Harrell, a turntablist, social innovator, music engineer, and drug treatment educator. I won't say what's up, Doc, if you don't say use the force, Luke.
I thought I felt something strong around
Yeah,
here.
you felt something strong already.
Yeah.
So, talk to me. The reason I was so thrilled that you agreed to come on our show is that in some ways, this nexus of technology, globalization, diversity is found right at Synergy Studio, your studio. So tell me what you do at Synergy Studio.
Yeah, we do voiceovers and recording and high-level mixing and mastering for artists all over the world. It all started in my mom's basement about 17 years ago. And now I work with artists all around the globe, even this past year from the UK and a Japanese MC. And I also, I'm a turntablist, and so...
Tell us what that is. When I first heard that, I heard about it from you, and then I wanted to...
Yeah, it's basically using a record player with real records, but using it as an instrument. And I played with the Cleveland Contemporary Youth Orchestra. I played with a blues singer, KJ Blues, rock artists, basically a wide variety of styles of music using the turntable as the instrument.
Yeah, and so let's get into some of that. You talked about a youth orchestra. You also work with kids in your community, and you use hip-hop music. And let me say that part of what happens with me, and when I think of hip-hop, is that glorification of a lot of stuff, a lot of money, a lot of power or sex or something that becomes really big about the world in sometimes a negative way, but you use it in a different way. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Hip-hop is a very, it's like a knife. It's sharp, and you could do damage with it or you could heal with it. And hip-hop expression, I found in my own life growing up and getting into hip-hop as my own art form of expression. You could use that art form for some negative things, or you could use it as some positive things. But I actually don't use it, I don't like to use the term positive and negative as much as what's the reason behind the art. So what's the reason behind the rap? Is it commercial? Is it made for money? Am I going to write things just to make some sales or become famous? Or is it back to the hip-hop roots, which hip-hop was actually a local phenomenon, and hip-hop artists made songs for the local community around them. And so for me, hip-hop is something to be transparent and honest in your writings, and that's when I work with youth. I try to really get them to do the hard part. It's easy to create something that sounds cool, but to do the hard part and say something honest and transparent about your own life and self.
Let me interrupt, because that's how I found out. We did some Civic Commons radio show with you, and you talked about one of the difficulties with kids was getting them to really speak honestly about their own experience and not just kind of put it out there as some kind of flash. And especially you work with kids who are in drug treatment.
Right.
And what's the dynamic you see there about how they're able to express themselves?
Yeah, I find that everywhere I go, in schools, drug treatment centers, the most common form of music that teenagers enjoy or communicate with and through is hip-hop. And so all the students, they kind of come into class with me with preconceived ideas of what hip-hop is. And I kind of talk to them about concentric circles of community. And when they first try to write raps, they are writing from a perspective like their CD is going to be sitting on a shelf, and everyone in the world is going to get it. Just like the music they hear on the radio, it's spoken to such large audiences. But I break it down to them and basically say that when you write lyrics, first, it's like writing in a journal. It's first for you. Second, for those on your team that are writing with you. And third, who's going to hear this first?
Yeah, and what we have actually going out is some pictures that were taken of you working with some kids in the community and working with them to help write their stories, to help really express some of their feelings. And that's, this nature of how do we bring together our world in a way that erases some of those edges and those boundaries that are in some ways artificial, right? I mean, we all have, and I remember you saying about the drug treatment center, there's no discrimination when it comes to a drug treatment center. There's people who are rich and poor, black, white, everything under the sun.
Incredibly diverse. Yeah.
And so you're helping them express it despite wherever starting point they're coming from. I mean, how do you do that? How do you really get at that?
Yeah, it's creating a safe place because it's, back to you guys were speaking about identity earlier, and hip-hop is a lot about digging for your identity and putting it out there. And so for me, because hip-hop is such a strong form of expression, it actually helped me when I was a teen to it's like if I know I'm going to say something loud, it helps me look really deep within to say, what am I going to say that loud? It has to be important. And so that's what we need to create, a safe environment so the students can choose. Will they just say what they've heard on other rap songs?
Repeat, right.
And repeat, or dig deep and say something. And once one of them will say something deep, something about themselves, now everyone else is like, whoa.
Oh, so there's a moment.
Right, and then they want to say something about themselves, because that's how we change each other, is when we put something real out there.
So we've talked tonight on the program about this great big, diverse world and the globalization and technology, but sometimes it's that human one-on-one which is going to make the biggest change of all. Yeah, that's interesting. Do you finally, are you playing out? Do you have some times that people can come and see what you do?
You could always find me at djdoc.com, DEEJAYDOC.com, to find out where I'll be. I have a camp coming up this summer. It's the second end-to-end area hip-hop camp. And yeah, I'm all over town.
Excellent.
You'll see me.
Thanks so much for coming in.
All right.
Appreciate our conversation.
Totally, man.
All right, man.
Thanks, Luke.
So coming up, we're going to talk to a guy who has a really big idea to share with you. So stay tuned here on NEOtropolis. Now it's time for a big idea. Well, I hope you think that the show has been filled with big ideas, but this is a little different. Joining me now is NEOtropolis contributor Craig James to offer up a single idea about technology for us to ponder for just a minute. Craig James, big idea. Here you go.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, excellent. So what do you got for us tonight? What's the big idea?
Big idea. Transhumanism and singularity. How's that sound? Those are pretty big ideas, Luke. What do you think?
They're more polysyllabic words, and they're kind of confusing. Can you say it in, English?
I'll give that a try. What I'm talking about, Luke, is the convergence of man and machine for real. No longer science fiction. If we were to look at the history of technology, it used to be about stuff, right? Stone tools and fire, we'd make things. And then technology became about moving those things, the wheel, a few thousand years ago. And then, after that, the convergence begins. The printing press allows us to share ideas. And so, suddenly, we start seeing man and machine sort of merge together. However, that distinction, that line that's always been there, is starting to fade away.
Well, yeah, I had this image when you were saying this blurry line and becoming less distinct. One thing I thought immediately was when I call somewhere for advice or, professional support, technical support, and I hear this, "Hi, I'm Joyce, can I help you?" It's not Joyce, it's a computer.
Well, that's right. It's that and then some, Luke. Imagine making a phone call by just thinking it. Imagine putting your contacts in and, you're connected to the internet. So you're a surfer, no problem. Surf the waves, surf the net, all at the same time.
It's like Minority Report, isn't it?
All right, exactly. See someone on the street, you see them and tons of information about them. This is the real stuff that's happening and coming on stream. So it's a heck of an exciting time to be alive.
Excellent. And where can they get more information about this kind of thing?
You're in luck. cat-strat.com.
Thanks a lot, Craig. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Luke.
See you soon. Next, we'll wrap up with some social media notes. Joining me again is NEOtropolis' social media expert. I'll get used to saying that soon. Kathleen Colin. What's happening out there? Does people bring some stuff in?
We have a rousing debate going on the Facebook page about the latent consequences of social media and all this technology, people that are for and against it, with the question that we pose about what is a better technology or a more advanced technology, an app that helps you find a restaurant or self-park your car.
Right. So it's what do we got to show them here?
We've got some comments. We have got some comments. This gentleman had quite an interesting take on it. I think his answer was smart. The bigger advancement is the car parking, but more useful probably to more people, more accessible to more people. I don't know how many people have that car parking in their car.
I don't think it's very many, but I've heard about it.
Right. But everyone has Yelp or Google Places on their phone to find things.
What else are we hearing?
Oh, now this young lady, who I think is a Kent State student, had a number of opinions, and she feels that all of this technology is distancing us from each other. She goes on quite a bit, so if you want to see the rest of her comments, go to the Facebook page.
And this is exactly what we want. We want this kind of interaction. We want these people to weigh in with their ideas, and it just really leads to a robust and good discussion. How can people stay in touch during the week, Kathleen?
Oh, the myriad of ways, as they know, as so many people have gotten in touch with us. And we have a couple more comments, I think, as well on Facebook.
There's someone, okay.
Rebecca.
Let's see, we have someone
Miss
here.
Nikki. Lots of people.
All right, good.
More useful. No, we had quite a few more comments, so people can check them out. But during the week, we'd love to continue the conversation on this question and more questions.
Excellent. So we'll be back next week in NEOtropolis. Season 1 premieres history, but through the miracle of technology, we give you 24-hour access to this and every episode at neotropolis.org. And so this is Luke Frazier, and we will see you next week when we will talk about biomimicry and the cult of sustainability. Thanks for joining us. And so what we'll also do is take your phone calls in the coming episodes of NEOtropolis, and if you would like to join us then, and we'll tell you how at that time. But in the meantime, just keep in touch with us. We really want to make sure that you can keep in touch. I'm Luke Frazier, and I'll be back next week with another NEOtropolis episode. And we'll just take on all kinds of issues.
Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
I've scored major motion pictures. I've written music for cartoon shows. I play in a band called Devo. So while you may not know my name, you probably know my music. And if my music moved you, thank the place that moved me, Kent State University. Because if you've seen my work, you've seen their work. My name is Mark Mothersbaugh, and I'm a proud alum of Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.